I want to thank you guys all for joining tonight. We have something really special planned. My name is Josh, just for some context. I am a rising senior at Tufts University. 3 years ago, I started a company called TouredIt, which has since partnered with Eric and Solution Prep. And what TouredIt does is we offer these personalized college tours across the country. We also offer virtual calls, and the whole idea is that we match, prospective students with current college students of similar interests. So, if you're interested in Penn State and you're interested in maybe club lacrosse and economics, we would match you with that archetype of a student for your tour. And the idea is that you can sort of get a more one-on-one experience, you can learn more, and through those connections that we built, we're able to partner with Eric and build these sorts of webinars where we can bring together students of similar interest to you guys and students of similar interest to each other to sort of speak on their experiences at their schools. And so we have, a really nice webinar planned tonight. We have students from 5 different schools. We call it sort of bigger state schools, athletics, Greek life. These are sort of, core, stereotypically core pillars of these schools. And, that's we're about to find out if that's true or fake tonight. Feel free to ask questions in the Q&A. We have questions pre-planned. And then I'll speak one more time at the end just to update you guys. But yeah, this is going to be great.
Very nice. To echo Josh's sentiment, greetings, salutations, good evening, hello. Thank you all for being here. We got some good stuff planned, some good information that will be communicated. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here in this webinar with us, and we aim to make it worth your time. My name is Tim. I am the Director of Community Development here at Solution Prep. We do important things like college admissions help, SAT and SAT and ACT coaching, curriculum tutoring, all these kinds of things to help college-bound students take the next step towards becoming the people they will eventually become. We have centers in Wall, Little Silver, East Brunswick, and Toms River. And we've been paired with TouredIt for quite a while. It's such a cool and unique thing that TouredIt does, which is really give prospective students that kind of unfiltered view of what life is like on these campuses, which is really an invaluable sort of thing to be able to talk to a student or students who are not on the take, not on the college payroll, so to speak. So today, as Josh has mentioned, we have 5 real live students with us. If you wouldn't mind all just introducing yourselves, say a word or two about your school and your major.
Hi everyone, my name is Noah. I'm a student at the University of Florida. I'm a business administration major, and I've recently added the professional selling minor, which I'm sure we could talk about a little bit later. And love the school, love being in an SEC school, huge football school, like Josh touched on, big fraternity school, sorority school, which is just average Greek life in many of the big schools. And yeah, I love it, and sure we'll talk more about it in a few.
Hi guys, I'm Luke Ravitz. I'm an upcoming junior at Penn State. I'm a telecommunications major, and I just picked up a minor in digital media trends. I love Penn State. It's big, also a big football school, Big Ten, so it's a little bit different than NOAA and the SEC. But it's just great. And yeah.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I went to Ohio State. I graduated in 2024. Diehard Buckeyes fan will probably be for life. I'm currently getting my PhD in clinical psychology at Hofstra University in Long Island, New York, which makes sense because back at Ohio State, I was a psychology major and I also minored in Spanish. As I'm sure you'll hear from everyone tonight, big sports fans, Greek life, big school, all the fun things. Couldn't rave about Ohio State more. So excited to chat.
Hi, my name is Daphne Kaplan. I just graduated from Michigan in May. I was a public health sciences major and I minored in sociology with a focus in law, justice, and social change. Michigan is also a huge sports school, and it's obviously a huge campus and a huge student body. But I'm sure we'll get into everything more. But again, yeah, huge Greek life presence, and Ann Arbor is great. So go blue.
Guys, I'm Caleb. I am a junior at the University of Alabama. I'm a computer science major. another big SEC school. So football here, huge part of school, as well as Greek life and all the other activities that you can get into around Alabama. So I'm excited to chat with you guys.
All right, that's our panel. Thank you guys all for the introductions here. I also want to address, you, our wonderful audience. Please, throughout our back and forth here with the panel, feel free to drop any questions into the chat. For those of you who are new to Zoom, although I don't know who is new to Zoom in this year 2025, it's the middle button there. It's a chat. It'll pop right up. If you're feeling a little bit shy about the content of your question, you can at the Q&A account. We will have a Q&A session once our list of questions has been worked through. But please, I mean, even if anything comes up, or if you have any specific questions for any one of our panelists, we encourage that. But okay, I mean, let's begin right at the beginning here. So what other colleges were you guys accepted to, and why did you choose the college which you're currently at? Caleb, if you wouldn't mind leading us off.
Sure. So the main college that I was trying to get into was the University of Alabama, but I also applied to Kennesaw State in Georgia, as well as Georgia Southern, and or South Alabama. So I got into all of those other schools. They weren't my number one pick, but I did choose Bama because of the big school appeal, as well as the football team and the availability for making connections is much bigger at a larger school than at a smaller school like any of the others that I got into. So
Very cool.
that's the main thing for me, I'd say.
I gotcha. Mr. Noah.
Yeah, I applied to 6 schools. I live in Florida, so I applied to Florida, UCF, which is Central Florida, Boulder, Colorado, Michigan State, Penn State, and Georgia. I got into all of them other than Georgia. I was waitlisted, or I got denied like the second go around. So that stunk because my dad went to Georgia, so he gives me a little friendly banter every once in a while. But yeah, there was a few things that I looked at when applying to schools. I'm I'm on the hockey team at UF, so I wanted a school that offered hockey, offered Greek life, had a great reputation, and was a big football school, and Florida checked all those boxes off for me.
Interestingly for me, I think I applied to 11 schools or something like that. And Ohio State was the only Big Ten school, the only big school, frankly, that I applied to. I was fairly certain that I wasn't going to go to a big school. So the majority of other schools that I applied to were more like smaller liberal arts schools, nothing where it's too hot. So I stayed very much in the northern end of the states. But schools that I got into off the top of my head were University of Vermont, GW in DC, UMass Amherst, Pitt, Delaware, Boulder, schools of that vibe and energy. Essentially, I was going to ED to Cornell, visited Ohio State, and withdrew my application to Cornell. I had one of those like major aha moments while I was on campus. I went to a football game. I'll mention it so many different times. I became such a diehard Buckeye fan like so very fast. And there was something about the campus slash city life that I found really appealing to me because I think the majority of my other schools were very much either very much like surrounded by a city and in the city, or it was a campus that was surrounded by nothing. And I really appreciated that Columbus had both campus and city, and it felt like a really good opportunity for me to just explore all of the different things that I loved. And it was a good choice.
Very cool. Very cool. Moving on here, what steps did you guys take to become, I don't know, a good candidate for, I mean, not only admission at your undergrad, but really kind of like for everything on your list? I mean, like, were there any schools that you were really confident about that, I mean, didn't work out? Like, and finally, I mean, when those admissions rolled in, like, how did you decide, like, okay, this is the place I'll attend? Like, Olivia just said the football game is kind of what turned the tide for you. And we will come back to it, I'm sure. But Mr. Luke, if you wouldn't mind chiming in here.
No, yeah, for sure. I always kind of knew I wanted to go to Penn State. My mom went there. One of my older sisters went there for a little bit. And, during my application, one thing is I prefaced on was my loyalty to the school and, going to games growing up. And, that was just something that I looked forward to the most. And, I mean, like, I was just excited when I got in as well too. Like, um, I didn't know what my chances were because we were coming out of COVID. It was a very competitive school. So I was very excited when I did get in, and I didn't know. It was just really competitive, like all these schools are. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into.
Gotcha. Daphne, could you weigh in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually applied to colleges like during COVID. I was a junior in 2020, and so it was definitely a really weird time and obviously like unprecedented. But it was definitely nerve-wracking applying within that cycle. I would recommend in general, like I know I like had an express like demonstrated interest at a lot of schools from a like pretty early on. For me at the time, I mean, it was easy because a lot of schools had like the virtual tours and like virtual admission sessions. But I definitely say that schools, from my experience, like track them and like see how involved you are from like the start. And so I remember when I was a junior and even maybe a sophomore, I actually grew up in a huge like Michigan family, and so I was able to go to campus at some point, and so I like had signed up for an admission session then. But I remember like even during COVID, I like signed up for a bunch of different schools admission sessions, just so I can like get my foot in the door. And then yeah, I kind of was hoping I would go to Michigan. And I was definitely I applied to several other schools, but I obviously didn't know how it was going to pan out during COVID. It was like the first year when test optional. But yeah, when I got in, it was kind of like a no-brainer for me. Just like Michigan has so many options in terms of clubs, in terms of classes. There's so many opportunities at such a large school, and so when I got in, it was kind of like an automatic yes, and that like I committed.
Very cool. Noah.
Sure. So through high school, I took a lot of those AP ACE classes. I dual enrolled for a summer semester as well. And all of it was just for preparation for the application. And my SAT certainly wasn't at the top of the 50 to 75% range, but there were other things that I think stood out. So I was a little nervous about my chances getting in because you hear all the stories about people with 1500s and things like that that just don't get in. So I definitely focused more on what I did outside the classroom. I founded a club at my high school. I keep talking about hockey, but I was the captain of my hockey team, and there was just like a lot of things I did outside of the classroom that mattered a lot more, which I think raised my chances of getting in. So I did feel pretty hopeful. And my brother went to UF. He just graduated, but when he was there and I was in high school, I would visit a bunch, went to a few football games, fell in love with the school, did a few official tours at UF also. And since then, I just knew I wanted to go there. When I got in, it was a no-brainer, like Daphne's story too.
Very cool. And no, I gotta because I'm curious now. Would you mind sharing the club that you started? You don't have to. I put you on the spot here,
Yeah,
but I'd
yeah.
like about it.
No, definitely. The Stoneman Douglas High School was like 20 minutes from where I live. That's in Parkland. I live in Weston. So after that, the community of Parkland is like very close to all the communities surrounding South Florida. And one of the mothers of the victims wanted to make our school safe. So the Moss Club, and put them in all the starting in Broward County and moving on elsewhere. So what we did was we added Stop the Bleed kits into every classroom, and the cost of that was $15,000 to do because we had like 300 something classrooms. Each of them was about $50, something like that. So to raise all the money and stuff was a whole challenge in itself. And being a co-founder of that and assuming all the responsibility was definitely something I think colleges admired, and not just doing it, but you also have to explain to the school you're applying to in such a way that they understand you and your thought process and the effort that you put into it. Because it's one thing to do it, but it's another thing to really explain how you do something. So I think that's another thing to look at in your application.
Absolutely. And really kind of casting our minds back to the what might not feel like the recent history of the application process. If you guys could please think back to what how you reacted when you got that acceptance, like and I mean for some of you guys it might be more of a nicely encapsulated story than others. But like, when and how did you decide that like this is where I'm going? Like I'm definitely going here. And of course, I have to turn it over to Olivia to lead us off.
Sure, it's a good question. I do remember the first school I got accepted to was Pitt, and I just remember that first one because it was like, holy cow, I'm gonna actually go to college, and like all of this wasn't for nothing.
Yeah.
With Ohio State specifically, my visit to Ohio State and that aha moment that I had spoken about, that happened after I had already gotten in. When I got in, I was kind of like, yay, woo. Once I decided that I really wanted to go to Ohio State, it came down to money, which I imagine is true for many people, maybe not everyone here, but just true in general. So after I decided that I wanted Ohio State, that was when I started applying to scholarships and other such things. I'm from New York originally, so that's out of state. So what I can tell you is the day that I received the scholarship that allowed me to afford Ohio State, it was tears and tears and tears. There's like many videos of me crying somewhere. So that was super exciting, but not quite just like the getting in moment. But of course, there are other things that factor into being able to attend a university that you love beyond just, the yes. So.
Cool. Very cool. Um, Luke, if you could chime in.
Yeah, I mean, mine's a pretty funny story. It was around December time, and I was at the lunch table with all my buddies, and my best friend growing up sat right across from me, and like he was telling me, he was like, "Yo, just keep a lookout in your email. Like Penn State is coming out today." So just kept on refreshing throughout the day. Finally got it. Super excited, and we just like hugged each other. He didn't know he was going there yet. He ended up committing way after me in April. But so back to the question, so I got in December, and I probably waited about a month or two just to make sure and to wait back from all the other schools I applied to. And once I finally committed, I was just super excited and relieved that everything was finally over with the application process, and I could just look forward to starting out my freshman year and just meeting everyone.
Just that relief, I mean,
Yeah.
very little in life, comes close to that. No, if you would mind as well.
Yeah, definitely. I remember submitting the final application to Florida probably sometime in September, October area, and remembering that it was going to be February 24th the following year. And that's a really long wait, just sitting and like counting down the days for that. But once February 24th did come, that was a really long few hours until about like 5 p.m. when ironically was driving to a hockey tournament and was in the backseat of my car. My mom was in the front. She's like, I think it came out early. So checked the portal, saw the confetti, and definitely shed a few tears because of all the waiting and the relief. But it was 100% worth it in the end.
And it's such a good, I'm reminded of, I forget what translation of the Odyssey, or maybe it's the Iliad. This constant refrain of so and so, let the big tears fall, like this moment of like, I mean, that cathartic, just like, oh my gosh, the end of this long journey. And speaking of long journeys, an oft overlooked part of the application journey, it's like, oh yeah, you got to have good grades, you got to build a nice resume of activities, you have to get a fairly decent score on these, game shows of standardized tests, and you got to write some cool essays. My question here is, if you guys could tell me about anything you either recall about the process, like the challenge of grappling with school-specific essays. Doesn't even have to be for the school that you actually attended or attend, but just, I mean, just the challenges of the process, like what you do recall. Daphne, would you mind leading us here?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember writing like so many different types of essays. For Michigan, I know that there's obviously like the general Common App one, but I remember there was also the Why Michigan and then also a community essay. And so I remember for the Why Michigan or really any answers for like I feel like a lot of schools have the why essay. Definitely be creative in the response. I remember like looking up different professors, looking up different clubs. Actually, I did join a few of them. So it definitely shows you have, I don't know, you did your research. But then specifically like for the community essay, I like was part of this fellowship in high school that kind of explored like anti-Semitism, discrimination, in like the DC area. I'm from this area. And so I talked about the community that I built and was part of there. But I also know that like you can have like a really creative and fun approach towards it. My sister, she also went to Michigan, and she wrote about in her community essay about how she used to do Zumba with a bunch of middle-aged women. And it's something so random and silly, but I'm sure that they obviously had a fun time reading it. And so that was just like a fun approach and just a reminder that obviously you can talk about like really like serious things or obviously transformative experiences and yeah, exactly. But you also can have fun with it. I'm trying to think of other ones as well. But yeah, I remember like even like for Maryland that had like their responses are really short, like sentences. And so I remember like I don't know, I don't know, my name starts with D. I have always loved ducks. And so I remember I wrote about how I like to collect like ducks from around the world. And so something like so creative like that is definitely, I think, what they're looking for. I think they want to see a creative side.
Which and to your point, I mean those shorter essays, you'd think that they would be easier to write. They're not. Like it's like, oh gosh, like I have 50 words or even better, like I used to call them like tweet essays, I think. I have 180 characters, to respond to this. Yeah, not necessarily an easier process, you know what I mean? And really the, the advice be yourself. It's such a challenge because it's so easy to get caught up and like trying to figure out, well then well, what's going to make me different. Caleb, to that end, I mean, do you recall any of these challenges?
Absolutely. So for me, the hardest essay that I wrote for college was the What Sets You Apart as a Student essay for Alabama. And with that essay, you have to sit and think over the past 4 years as a high school student, and even beyond that, what have I done that sets me apart from the typical student? So I had to think back to my like athletics, my clubs that I was on. I was the president of our chess club in high school, and that was one thing that I had put on there. But it was very a short term, but it was a very niche thing that might give me that elevation above somebody else who doesn't have those sort of leadership positions in clubs, right? I was varsity tennis, varsity swim, varsity soccer, those things as well. Thinking back, putting them all on the application and just putting that all into words of how do these things make me a better student than somebody else who's potentially competing for that spot was very challenging. One, because you have to give yourself some humility as well, but also to elevate yourself isn't something we do very often.
And walking that line too, it's like being confident without being overconfident. It's like I think it was Aristotle, all virtue exists in a dichotomy of vice. Bravery is between cowardice and recklessness. So it's a tough needle to thread. You know what I mean? But obviously, you guys did a wonderful job with it. In fact, I mean, okay, in the chronological process here, all right, you went to these or accepted these invites from these wonderful big schools. A lot of students tend to shy away from applying to bigger schools because they feel that they're like too big. Um, Did your school feel overwhelming at first? Was it like some gargantuan, like, oh my gosh, heart palpitations? Or was it not? Was it just like, you know what, I feel comfortable here immediately, you know? Um, Luke, if you wouldn't mind giving us your insight.
No, yeah, I could definitely see why you would be very maybe nervous or just overwhelmed to go to a big school like Penn State or one of these schools. But for me, in my case, Penn State actually has a very big summer school program where a lot of students who maybe were trying to get in the business school or kids like me who I got in for the fall semester, but just wanted to meet new people and get familiar with the school. So I opted in to the summer session. So for me, that was just a great opportunity to meet people, get a feel of the big school, get credits as well going into the fall semester. And, we had a week in between the summer session and fall semester. So, that gave me a big head start, heading into that first semester where I was able to meet a good group of friends, going into fall rush for fraternities and just social life. It's just it makes it easier for you. You're not as nervous or eager to, you know, maybe I wouldn't say like meet new people, but like you already have that with you. So you're not like super nervous going out because you already have that group of people. But I could definitely see why if you didn't do summer session, you may be, but it's like you find your group of people and it may not be for everyone, but for my situation, it was. It's good.
Great. I mean, just a wonderful technique for putting down roots before getting ahead of the game, you know? Olivia, if you could let us know how it was for you.
Yeah, just a really small thing that I just thought of that I remember went through my mind when I was making decisions. I find that you can make any big school small, but you can't really make small schools big. And what I mean by that is not to like hate on small schools. Small schools are great for a variety of reasons. But when you go to a school with that is so huge, there are communities for everything. There are niches and pockets of people everywhere. And if you want X, Y, and Z all at once, you can find people that are all of those things for you. I myself was not a big club person in high school, and I found myself getting super involved at Ohio State because I wanted to find my little communities here and there, and I was able to, kind of explore like a variety of things that made me me in different capacities and then combine them as well. Whereas something I'd realized when I was making decisions was at a little school, if you don't like what you've got, like that's it, like there's not many opportunities to say, this part's not for me, but, there are 8,000 other things for me to explore. And so that was something that gave me a little bit of comfort in such a big school.
Uh, Daphne, could you share what gave you that same kind of sense of comfort, or if you just always had it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even though I like had my sister and siblings at Michigan when I first got there, it's still like undoubtedly a really huge school. I mean, the campus itself is um huge, and then also just like the student body itself. But I feel like in the beginning, I like definitely sought opportunities to just like meet people, whether that be like joining clubs or they hold an event festival every year, where kind of all like the student clubs like go on the diag, which is like at the heart of campus, and similarly they also like hold club events, and so you can just like sign up for everything, and so at first like that was really overwhelming just going around. I always say it's like pitch perfect in that moment, but I think definitely took a few weeks just to really like figure out what clubs. I signed up for like a billion clubs with my with friends, to figure out like what I actually wanted to go to. And I think going to those moments, like going to those club events, I think it was obviously a little uncomfortable in the beginning just because you're putting yourself out there. But I think going to those small events allowed me to meet a lot of amazing people, and just like, yeah, meet people, build community. Um, like wherever I went, I always say that like even though Michigan is a huge campus and I think can definitely like deter people from applying or even coming, I feel like when I walk around, like I always would see the same people. Um, and maybe it's just like the timing of everything or I don't know what, but I think you can always there's so many opportunities. Like similarly, you can make a big school feel so small. And especially at Michigan, where I think there are over 1,600 clubs, like there's so many opportunities to get involved and meet so many people. Um, and so I think those are the types of things that I did that really helped.
1,600 clubs is such a wild number to consider because even if like half of those are super active, that's still a wild number. You know what I mean? Like that's truly something for everyone. Uh, Caleb, could you share as well? I mean, what was the process like for you?
It's been one of the biggest SEC schools. Um, for me, getting there, coming from a small town, was super overwhelming, right? Walking into my first class and there's 250 people when that's half of my graduating class. I wasn't expecting it. But adding on to what they were saying, it is easy to make a big school feel small with clubs and stuff like that. And then just having like get on board day for Alabama was where all the clubs will come to one spot and you'll have rows and rows of tables of people set up talking about why you should join their club and what might interest you. And you can find niche things like we have a geology club and they go on random trips and just all these different things that can help you to find your people. I'm also in the ROTC, so coming in there, having the military aspect of doing college, having a small group of people who are doing the same thing. You get real close with those people, and then you branch out and find other friends as well. And just exploring campus, you see so many people to begin with, and eventually, as you go throughout the year, you trickle down, and you see the same people over and over again, and eventually you stop, you talk, have a conversation, and then continue your day. But it is easy to make a big school feel small.
To that point about making a big school feel small or I mean getting engaged kind of with just things on or around campus. If you guys could share a bit about like what campus resources that you found to be, I don't know, most helpful or most interesting or just cool. Was in specifically with like navigating college life, whether that's like, figuring out a major or figuring out what requirements you still need to take to graduate on time or I mean really anything at all, like finding a cool club. Um, Noah, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
For sure. So as I mentioned, I'm a business major, and part of being a business major is that you want to graduate and have a job. And so finding a job is very difficult. What exactly do you want to have a job in? And I think one of the best campus resources we have is the Career Connection Center. So every so often, I think once a semester, maybe twice a semester, we have a career fair where people fly in from all over the country, come to UF and try to get us to apply to their internship, apply to their job, meet hands-on, get contacts, give business cards, take business cards. And it's like just like this huge business bash. And just being there was so cool. It felt so real world. And the other great thing about this is that in our rights union, which is our student union, in the back, on like the third floor, there's now like this huge space with offices, and these companies come and after they have these business events or bashes and they have some Zoom interviews, they have in-person interviews. So they'll come to the school, the students will just walk to the student union, walk up 2 flights, and you have an in-person interview with a company that could be in Dallas, for example. And I think that's a really cool thing that I'm not sure every school has, but it's something that we do have, and I've appreciated and utilized the tool of that campus resource.
Oh, that's awesome. Uh, uh, Caleb, in your last answer, you had mentioned at the very end ROTC. Were there any, I don't know, unique resources through the ROTC, or I mean, was it more just university focused only that kind of helped you navigate campus life?
Air Force ROTC, there are plenty of resources that they offer. They have multiple different officers that are there to help guide you and tell you things that might help you. And as well as they have a mentorship program with people who have been through the program, through the university. I remember my first mentor was a senior, and he was also a computer science major, and he was able to tell me sort of which classes to take with which professors and which professors I should avoid. that kind of stuff, as well as they have a couple different forms. They have what's called a Form 41, which is where you can sort of lay out your degree plan, how that will affect your progress through the program, as well as when you'll graduate and what you need to take at which times, and how you can elevate that and fill in other things as well, other classes and stuff like that. And some other resources from the university. I would say the Student Center is where most of our campus activity happens. There will be people in there pretty much 24/7 when it's open. Sometimes they do like poster sales or they do club advertising. There's also restaurants and stuff in there as well, where you can come together and sit down with people and talk about how you're doing, what you need to do, and how you're going to progress through your college life.
Very, very cool. Pass it over to Olivia.
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. The most immediate answer that I think of is kind of going back to like making a big, big school small. I I got very involved with the Chabad on my campus, which is a Jewish organization, and that was a really good way of just like feeling like I had a family and community far away from home. But separate from that, my advisor, my psychology advisor, and it's very hit or miss. You either get one that you love or you get one that you can't stand. When I got into my PhD program, so did she. Like she was so very much a part of my experience and helped me so greatly with every small detail. I told her I wasn't a morning person. She made sure that I had no classes earlier than 10 o'clock. Like she was so on top of it. And so I think advocating for yourself and making sure that you have an advisor that, you know, you feel comfortable going to with things as silly as saying, I'm not a morning person, and feeling as though your, you know, opinions and ideas and requests are being respected. I think that's a huge deal. Forming relationships with people like that is also really helpful. I also, my senior year, worked at the Student Wellness Center, which I admittedly did not use once until I worked there. But once I was working for them, I did see just how much they helped newer students. I worked very specifically with newer students and with freshmen coming in. And the resources that they offered were just phenomenal for new students. So I would also seek, I mean, I can imagine that at every big school, there is some like freshman coordinator, freshman, you know, orientation leaders, and like a student wellness center type of place where you can always go to for like peer education, peer counseling, and also like regular counseling or advice if that's something that you're looking for.
Very, very cool. I'm reminded of some old proverb, adage, whatever. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Although that's not always the case. Sometimes we're not ready, or sometimes the wrong teacher appears somehow. And really, that's kind of the spirit of you know, the next question here. Could you guys share your experience with professors, TAs, advisors, mentors, just anyone who kind of was in a place of I don't know, helping out or transmitting knowledge in some fashion. And listen, it doesn't all have to be like really good. I mean, sometimes it was either difficult or challenging, but then it worked out really well. You know, kind of like I don't want to say tough love, but like, but something like that. Just like hearing a truth that you needed to hear that then led to growth, or just anything at all about someone that helped you through. And Caleb, if you wouldn't mind starting us off, I know you had mentioned in your previous response that there was some sort of mentor who helped you out.
For one of the upper level computer science classes. So he was able to give a lot of information to me through what he'd learned and through his experiences going all the way up to his senior year. And just that really helped me to know what I needed to do and which professors to look out for. And then he also introduced me to Rate My Professor, which is an amazing tool, in my opinion, for getting a general feel for a professor. Mostly with professors, my experience has been pretty good. There are a few professors that are obviously going to be more tough than others, but sometimes you need that firm hand in order to get into gear and get your work done. And it's an eye-opening experience to have a professor who doesn't take any slack at all, and you're going there strictly to learn, and that's what college should be about. But also finding yourself and finding out how to do all these different things. Professors really help you out with that. And then I think one of the most notable TAs I had was in my freshman year first semester computer science course. The professor was very new to the university, so our TA was pretty much teaching us most of the course. After, if we were confused on what the professor was saying, after hours, we'd go to the TA and say, "Hey, I didn't really pick up what he was saying. Can you explain that some more?" And the TAs were mostly available to do that for us. And it was just overall a great experience having that.
Which is such a wonderful function, I mean, that a TA fulfills. And man, I mean, all TAs in my experience, are good, but some are really like lights out, like really spectacular, and do exactly what you had said. I mean, it really is, a proving ground, especially those larger lecture classes. Like if you've missed something, it's like speak up, go and talk. That's why they're there, the TAs. If you can't get the professor's ear, that's why they're around, because even if they can't answer, then they have a. Direct line to the professor. Daphne, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I failed my first college exam, and that was super, like, I know it's weird to admit now, but like at the time, it was, I was really upset. And obviously, I was very humbled going into college just because like that never happened in high school. But then honestly, like my GSI, like my graduate student instructor, and then also an LSA advisor. LSA is like the biggest college at Michigan, actually reached out to me and like schedule wanted to schedule a meeting to figure out exactly like what had happened, and also to figure out like, okay, I was doing well in the class otherwise, I just like failed this exam and obviously that was gonna take a toll on my grade. And so I think like I honestly did not expect that from like a huge school at all, like for them to even like reach out, to even know who I was, to even see that I was struggling in the class. But it was honestly like the most it was like super, super kind and honestly very helpful. Like I was able to get the accommodations I needed for exams, because I realized something else was going on. And so that was just really amazing. And I think that colleges and the advisors and GSIs are really looking out for you. But then also like I was in the School of Public Health at Michigan, which is an upper level program for junior and senior year. And obviously like from a closer knit community, or like I know like even once you declare your major, you're given an advisor. Um, but they were super helpful. It was really helpful to just be able to go and figure out my class schedule. They knew who I was and like would definitely have like detailed notes from time to time, or even like the career center advisors at the School of Public Health just like remembered me, and that was really helpful as well. And so obviously like as you go through college, it definitely takes some time to like build community as we had talked about, and figure out just like which advisor you like. But honestly, from my experience, like in the good times and the bad times, like they've always been super helpful.
Thank you so much for sharing, Daphne, and for being, open and honest in disclosure. You know what I mean? Like it's people act like, oh yes, it was all sunshine and daisies and nothing bad ever happened. But it's no, it's those times when we do fall short of our expectations. That's okay. Hey, this is a growth opportunity, right? And it seems like you've really kind of taken advantage of that and have risen, up to and beyond potential. That's really cool. Luke, could you share?
No, yeah. Going off of Daphne's point, my first advisor actually, like, he actually did not do anything to help me, never really reached out to me. So luckily, switched new ones. My new one's very good. She's extremely helpful. Email me to make sure I'm good. But in terms of professors, they're all extremely helpful. One that sticks out to me was actually, she was the dean of the communication school. So my major, I was lucky enough to take one of her classes in a seminar. So there was about 150 kids in that class. And it was one of those classes where attendance wasn't mandatory. So, and it was once a week. So a lot of times, students just wouldn't show up. And I knew for my career, this class was super important to me. I would show up every week and, raise my hand, answer questions. And she took notice of that. And I would stay back after class to ask questions. She would answer them. She helped me make my LinkedIn as a freshman. She set me up with good connections for internships. And I really appreciated that. And that's what most of the professors are there to do. And she actually took the role as president at Quinnipiac, which is really cool to see in her growth as well. So yeah, for my experiences, most of the professors are really helpful. If you stay after class, ask them questions, it shows that you care and they notice that, and they'll be more lenient with you if you are struggling. And let's say you can't be at class one time, maybe they'll let it go because they know you care. And that's my experience. I know a lot of students have other experiences, but it's been mostly positive.
It's that combination of like effort and humility, like it's totally fine to say like I need help, or just to raise your hand and say I don't know. I mean that's the term that I always use is intellectual bravery, and generally people whose entire livelihoods are education, they'll see that and they'll say, okay, cool, like let's see what we can get going with. Um, Olivia, if you wouldn't mind as well.
I like what you just said about intellectual bravery. I usually say you just got to bother the right people, but
Yes.
that's also a good one. I kind of spoke about my advisor a bit earlier. I think something that I definitely loved, and this was, I guess, specific to my major, but the fun thing about being a psychology major is all of your professors are clinical psychologists and care so deeply about mental health. And so I found very surprisingly that even though it was such a big school and my lecture halls were 300 plus people, if I walked up to a professor and was like, hey, like I have no idea what's going on, or like I'm struggling, they were always so receptive and so willing to find time to sit and to talk, and they would not leave you drowning, and always willing to give an extension on deadlines, always willing to help out when needed, as long as proved that you were doing these things for the right reasons. I will say I had one negative experience with a TA. And that was, I just dropped the class. So like not everything is rainbows and butterflies. I was someone who appreciated having a professor teach a course, and the one, TA that I was taught by, it just wasn't for me. So like again, like you advocate for yourself, you learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And the people there, you would hope more often than not want you to succeed. And so if you're able to, like that intellectual bravery, like go up and say something, more often than not, they will be receptive to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that professors or TAs, kind of like anyone in that collegiate level, they'll run the gamut from being really, really invested in your success to being like kind of indifferent. I've never come across a professor or a TA or anybody who's been like evil, you know what I mean? Like in trying to make you fail, although I'm sure they exist, I'm sure they're out there. But okay, along those lines though, if we could shift into like, stories about, your favorite class, your favorite professor, your favorite assignment or project for a class. And really the operative term here is like, nerd out. Like it's come on, like show us how cool whatever you think cool is, Noah, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Sure. I took a lot of electives by choice that just sound interesting, and I honestly love them. But there was one in particular that really shifted my whole focus in college. Originally, I was thinking about going into psychology, and I took a course with Not Everything's Positive, was not a professor, was a student that was at the PhD level and was not completely versed on every part of the subject, couldn't answer every question to everyone's liking. And I realized that maybe it was not for me. And the following semester, I took a sales seminar course. And every week on a Friday, some salesperson would come in, speak about their experience of how they got into their position. So we had somebody from Michelin. So they spoke about Michelin tires, what a Michelin star is, how it all came out to be, how this person got, like how he got there and what the company stands for, some missions. And at the end, hey, here's our QR code, sign up for our internship, like apply, do this if you want to get more interested, connected, etc. through LinkedIn. Here's this. We had somebody else through an elevator company, like very niche things that I did not think of previously. And I was like, wait, like this is something I could be interested in. Anything from tech sales to alcohol sales. There were just so many different ideas that I never once thought of, that through this course of just listening to somebody speak, about their life and how they got to where they are. I thought that was really cool.
And there's nothing like that, you know? It's just like everything clicking and being like, oh man, this is so cool, you know? Luke, if you could share.
Yeah, my favorite class actually took place last semester, and it was a film and production class. And it was something that I was pretty interested in. The class was actually at 4:15 Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which was pretty annoying to me. So at first I was kind of bummed out, but once the first class started, I knew I would love it. And basically what we did was just learn how to use video cameras, and then how to use Adobe Illustrator, not Illustrator, Adobe After Effects and Premiere Pro, and how to organize film, and capture different shots, editing, and we would dive into film itself and documentaries and see like what shots and see how they were made. So now every time I watch something, I kind of put that in my own perspective from that class, and it's really cool to see. Taking from that class into the real world, and see what I can do with it.
Do you have plans on creating anything of your own, or do you plan on
I-
like, you know what, I'm gonna be an appreciator for my life?
A little bit of both. I've made content before for different types of things, whether it be sports or advertisements. But just diving deep, like really deep into it, and learning how to like professionally use that stuff was pretty interesting to me, and it was like really good to know.
That's awesome. Uh, Daphne, could you share your favorite?
Yeah, my favorite class was actually this cancer epidemiology class that I took my fall semester. I thought it was really cool because we studied like the prevalence and mortality rates of all different types of cancers around the world, and then also engaged in like kind of like a group and then also individual project on a certain type of cancer. That was kind of ran semester long. And like had group components, had individual components, and then we all like presented on them. And so like my group focused on breast cancer, and I think I honestly still like reference a lot of like the lifestyle factors and other risk factors like to this day. I thought that like that class was also just so applicable to like daily life, and I think obviously cancer impacts so many people, and so also I think public health in general is very applicable to everyday life and like the knowledge you gain in the classes, but that class in particular was really cool, and it also had a speaker component as well, where we had a head and neck surgeon and translational researcher come in, as well as a genetic counselor come in and talk about like the genetic impacts or of and like risk factors for cancers. And so I thought it was just super, super cool. The class itself was also really small. It was about like, I want to say like 20 people. And so it was just a really cool opportunity and environment to learn in and just ask so many different types of questions. And like I said before, like I still like reference a lot of the information that I learned in that class like to this day, and I like know I will. Honestly, for the rest of my life, I feel like it's again super applicable.
Which, and a couple of things there. I mean, the first is that 20-person class, at such a big school, but that's the kind of way it goes. The 101, it's a huge lecture, and then the 200s, and it gets smaller and smaller, more and more specific, and cooler, and that kind of deep dive into just any sort of science or knowledge. It does stick with you, you know. Uh, Rounding things out, Caleb, could you share your favorite?
My favorite professor in time in college so far is we got Dr. Carswell. He was my freshman year intro to engineering class teacher. So that class in itself is super fun. You get all the little inspiration of different types of engineering. We'll do circuits and mechanical stuff, electrical stuff, and just overall awesome class. I loved it. And he was a super down to earth guy, but he was one of those more firm teacher guys that I was mentioning earlier. He didn't play around in class. He would come in, we would teach, we'd get to business. But just talking to him after hours and his office hours and stuff with stuff I didn't understand, you really get to understand and learn somebody like that and learn that the professors are people too, right? They have a life outside. Some days he would have to bring his daughter to class, and he would have her teach us a little bit as well. So that was really awesome. And then later on, I found out after I joined my fraternity that he was actually our chapter advisor through the university. So there's just crazy connection of both worlds there. And just as a super down-to-earth guy, really loved him as a teacher.
And like it's like they'll these sorts of people stick with you for the rest of your life, you know. It's the you'll always remember the impact that they've had on you. I mean, I'm thinking to my own kind of mentor in my undergrad years, you know. He would joke that he hatched me from an egg, which is like, I mean, you know, in a mental sense perhaps. But while we're on the topic of like favorites, I mean, we've been dealing with a lot of like really, I mean, not heavy, but more I don't know, hard-edged stuff. Could we shift gears to talk about like a favorite extracurricular, you know, a student organization, a club, an activity, an event, really anything that really is something that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. And Olivia, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
This is an easy one for me. The single greatest thing that Ohio State did for me was I got the chance to study abroad. I mentioned earlier that I was a minor in Spanish, and so Ohio State had this really unique situation where if you were a level three or higher in a language, if you wanted to study abroad and like through Ohio State and not through a third party, you had to do a foreign exchange type of situation. And so I was required to live with a host family, which when I initially signed up to study abroad was not something that I was interested in doing. And it was the single greatest thing I've done in my entire life. I went to Granada, Spain, having only taken Spanish classes, considering myself like hardly understanding of the language, and I came home fluent. I also had a unique experience because my host parents were actually only 7 years older than me. It was a gay couple, and we became best friends. So they also visited me in New York last year, and now I've got these besties from Spain that I will have for the rest of my life, and they truly became a family to me. But yeah, I think Ohio State does offer this like really unique opportunity to kind of like put yourself in a slightly different, maybe slightly uncomfortable situation for the benefit of your education. And had they not like required that of me, it's not something I ever would have done. And it was the greatest thing that happened to me. So yay, learn another language. It's so awesome.
Most excellent. You know, it's like growing a pair of wings. You know what I mean? It's like,
Like
okay,
I could
sweet.
talk about Spain every day. Like it was the best thing ever.
So you got to go back. I mean, that's really what that's a signal for, you know?
Yep.
Uh, Daphne, you know, going from you know, epidemiology to something extracurricular, please share.
Yeah, I joined my freshman year an org called Wolverine Support Network, which is actually like the biggest club on campus, but it's a cost-free peer support group that like runs every single week. And so at first I joined just like as a group member and would go like sit in like a room, I think it was like a assigned room around campus with people who like I likely would not have met otherwise. People like either like my year or like a few years older who we would just like talk about our weeks, like super like disconnected. And it was just like an awesome way to meet people, also just like a way to like get away from friend drama or talk about school or anything in a really like non-judgmental way. And then I became a peer facilitator my junior and senior year. But it's just like a great way to meet people. And yeah, to talk about mental health. We also like held different events throughout that were like open to all students, not even like necessarily in the club. Around campus, but it was just such an awesome environment, and really a great way to meet people, talk about mental health, and just like disconnect from the craziness of college. And like I honestly loved it because it was like I would go to these groups, and people would be so invested in like me and like other people. It was really rewarding to see like someone talk about like an event they were going to or something they were doing over the weekend, and then someone comes like would come to group the next week and like either like someone in the I guess like someone in the group would like follow up being like, "Oh, how was that?" And then I don't know, it's just like a nice way that like I feel like in college it's so hard, especially like living with a bunch of roommates or anything. Like people are just so focused on themselves and it's just an awesome way to just connect with others.
And I mean, mental health is no joke. And I'm one who knows this very, very well. My wife is a therapist, so it's something which we practice quite a bit in our household. And really, in that environment, it's easy to, I don't know, get bogged down with because it's you're disconnected from your home, So in creating that new home, it's important to find organizations like that, if that's something that you desire. Um, Rounding things out. Caleb, could you share your favorite?
Some of my favorite memories from college are game days, for sure. Especially beating Tennessee at night was one of the most crazy experiences I've ever seen. 40,000 fans cheering, and it was just incredible having that experience. And it's something that like it just becomes addicting, right? After that, you're like, oh my gosh, when's the next game? I gotta go. And then just after the games and having all the friends over and talking about the game, like, oh man, that was so sick. And then also like club events and stuff like that. With ROTC, we do a joint project with Auburn University. It's called Operation Iron Rock. It's a march from Tuscaloosa to Auburn or from Auburn to Tuscaloosa on the week of game day between Auburn and Alabama. And that's just an awesome experience as well, getting to, hang out with people from the rival university, but also just share a common struggle and talk to them about their experience as well. So some of those things are super awesome.
Which there's really it's such a specific example. Like human beings, we're social animals, So it's like engaging in like enjoying that sort of event together, It's really it's just really lovely. Um, at this point, I'm being prompted to remind our viewers, please submit any questions you have for the Q&A, which will be coming up fairly soon here. We are just past past more than the halfway point. Geez, the two-thirds point, I guess we'd call it. But our next question here is concerning with or concerned with practical ways to make the transition into school or into a big school easier. I mean, what quirks, tricks, hacks, anything at all that you feel that like every incoming first year student should know? Um, uh, Luke, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Yeah, I mean, as I stated before, for me, it was doing the summer session at Penn State. That really did help me accumulate to the school very well. Without that, I mean, I'm sure I would have been fine, but for me, that was a way of getting that head start and just meeting people, going out every night with my roommate, who I didn't know at the time, and like meeting his friends, and he met my friends. So all of that just really helped me a lot. So if you were just to go to the fall semester, I'd probably just say just go out as much as possible, wherever that is, join clubs. For me, I joined a Thon committee. So Thon at Penn State is the biggest student-run philanthropy event in the world. It's to raise money. It's a dance marathon to raise money for children with cancer. And joining that committee really helped me just meet people but I have very similar things alike with me. And we're doing it for a good cause. So for me, that was something to help get involved. Also looks very good on your resume to get involved with something like that. Joining a fraternity or sorority, that's another way of meeting people your age. And yeah, and that's pretty much my tricks and hacks.
No, absolutely. Because again, it can't be overstated that this is such a radical change. You know what I mean? So it's like being cast adrift like this, So something like getting a head start, very, very wise. Um, Noah, could you weigh in as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the beautiful things about college is you have a syllabus that tells you all the dates of when your assignments are due, but at the same time, that's like, oh, I have all week. I could do this on Sunday. I think that's one of the biggest differences and changes that in high school you kind of have a schedule. You wake up at the same time every day. You go to school at the same time. You usually have your sport, practice, whatever. After you have a very structured day, whereas in college you kind of create your own schedule. Sure, sometimes you have your own classes, but when you have work due on a Sunday night, I think the biggest tip would just be do it like as Monday, do it Tuesday, and do it in the morning because stuff comes up seemingly every single night. Random plans come together, people want to do things, and you don't want to be sitting in your room doing work when you should be out. So that's probably my tip. Just be a little bit more structured, have some time management, get your work done early.
Absolutely. It also can't be overstated that college is a place of higher learning. That's learning, it's a place to learn and also develop, socially and spiritually, et cetera, et cetera. But hey, that is the bedrock on which all that other stuff is based on. So it's really keeping those priorities in line. Very important stuff. Um, so. Moving on to our next question here. In the realm of advice, um, what would you tell a student who's been accepted to several places? What would you tell them? I mean, I don't want to say sell your school, but like sell your school. Like what would you let them know about why they should attend your school over any other? Olivia, start us off.
It's such a hard question. Everyone loves their school and is biased towards their school. I will say, um, what I loved so much about Ohio State is while it was such a big school, it didn't fall into the like super hard, super, everyone there is a genius. It didn't fall into the opposite end of that either. And so I felt it was very comfortable to just like do all the things you wanted to do. I mentioned earlier, like you have opportunities to join a million different things. You also can make it harder, you can make it easier, you can make it faster, you can make it slower. I think the big thing for me, I also mentioned earlier, is the whole campus to city ratio thing for me was a big deal. Being able to like rah-rah on campus and tailgate at the Oval and like have all these big, beautiful libraries and spaces on campus just for students was big. And then once I turned 21 and I could go off campus and go to the city and go to comedy clubs and go to shows, and that was also a really big thing for me. Go to rooftop, bars and stuff like that. That was huge. Feeling like an adult and getting to like remove myself from that fantasy land that was campus was really an important factor for me. And then you can ask any Ohio State student alive, being a Buckeye for life is no joke. Like it's not just, this diehard feeling that you have. There's also this like insane Buckeye camaraderie and family. You can see an Ohio State symbol anywhere in the world. And if you say OH, they're saying IO. And there's something so familial and beautiful about being a part of a community like that for life. And that's true for, every big school. I know that Daphne will say go blue forever. You got the Gator chomp forever. You'll be saying like Happy Valley or whatever it is you guys do and like jump around, all of that amazing stuff. But I've just found for Ohio State, like that fan base is absolutely insane. And there's just something really, really special about it.
Very, very cool and very well said. Um, well, okay. Luke, that's the pitch for Ohio State. What do you got?
No, it's very similar to what Olivia was saying. We have a pretty good academic reputation, but it's not like an Ivy League school, but you have the ability to get good academics, but also have a lot of free time, a lot of fun, because the campus is it has a very vibrant campus life. There's a lot of things to do. It's not in Columbus or Ann Arbor. It's not in like a city. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But that I kind of like that because it's kind of peaceful and quiet. But those big football weekends, the campus really does pack up a lot. The tailgates are incredible. People are out there at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. You're out there till noon when the game starts. And also just the alumni network at Penn State. It is just insane. I didn't realize how big it was. I think it's one of the biggest in the world. And it really opens doors around the world and the school spirit as well. I mean, the whiteout game, I didn't realize how crazy it was until you get into Beaver Stadium and you're in the game and how loud it is. It brings a sense of community, second to none. So, and also it's we are not Happy Valley, just to correct you there.
The second I muted myself, I was mad at myself. So I do appreciate the call
All
out.
good. Good.
Uh, Caleb, if you could bring it home with the Alabama pitch.
Man, there are so many things I could say about the culture of Alabama. If you're looking for Greek life, it's a no-brainer. Alabama, multi-million dollar houses line the street for Greek life, and that stuff is just it's everywhere at Alabama. But it's so much more than that too, right? The people, the connections, the friends you can make, the college clubs that we offer as well. Game days on the quad. It is just, it's all there, gift wrapped for you to experience and enjoy. And it seems like every single day that you're on campus, there's something new and something different you could be trying and different people to be meeting. And our academics, we get a bad rep for the Greek life stuff as far as academics go, but we do really have a great education system, especially if you're looking for engineering. We've got 8 engineering buildings in one area, and that's just a small section of campus. But then you go over to the business school, and you see the business library and all the different things over in that area, and you're blown away by the architecture and the different levels of people working together. It's an awesome experience that I would have personally never wanted to miss. And I grew up a Georgia fan, just so you guys know. And then wanting to go to Alabama like that, it kind of felt like a sin to my family. So they kind of shunned me a little bit. But now that I'm there, I would never imagine going to UGA because I love Alabama so much. And then, of course, just to tie everything off with game day, having the best football team in the nation, hands down. You're going to run into some Alabama fans who we love winning. 18 national championships is just it's awesome, right? So you can always brag about that, and you can say "Roll Tide" as a greeting or as a send off. It's kind of like saying "Aloha," right? You give them a Roll Tide. So.
Very, very well spoken, the three of you. I mean, beautifully done. Um, Okay, only because my alma mater, which by the way is Latin for bountiful mother, how about that? My alma mater's claim to fame in the culinary sense was something known as the fat sandwich, which is just a bunch of fried food on a sub sandwich bun, So it's like about 7,000 to 9,000 calories. What I want to ask you guys is, hey, how's the food? On campus, off campus, just what sticks out? And it doesn't all have to be good. Daphne, if you could lead us off.
Yeah, Ann Arbor actually has like incredible food. It's really nice because campus is actually like we have our campus and then it's walking distance to downtown Ann Arbor, which is so it's really fun to just go to dinner with friends or when family's visiting. And we also have like our own restaurant week, which is like I think twice a year. I think one in the summer and one in the winter. But there are so many different types of restaurants, really any cuisine you can think of. They have options and also just incredible options where I'm like, sometimes I wish I had like a Frida Batidas, which is like this Cuban restaurant in DC, or I know they're getting one in Brooklyn in New York. And so that's really awesome. Yeah, the food is incredible in Ann Arbor, and also like the dining hall food was never terrible. We have a lot of different options. We have so many different dining halls. I think that's just also just the nature of a huge school. And then also within each dining hall, there are a lot of options as well. And you can always see like on the Michigan app, you can see what the different menus are, and each dining hall has like different menus and the assortment of foods every time. But yeah, I cannot recommend the food in Ann Arbor more. I mean, we're also like famous for Zingerman's Deli, which I know is like Barack Obama's favorite, or not his favorite, but like he's been there. And yeah, just really great food. I could not rave about it more.
Very cool. Mr. Noah, if you could answer as well.
Sure, we have a lot of dining halls on campus, and all of them seem to have been renovated in my time being there. It feels like they're always under construction, but now they're all up, beautiful, and every experience I've had has been pretty good. I was actually kind of surprised just based on the wrap of like school-sponsored food, especially from going to public high school and things like that. It's never been the best, but at college it definitely is good, at least mine. And then once you are in a fraternity or sorority, if you choose to go down that path, I think every house has a private chef or many chefs, that cook lunch and dinner Monday through Friday. Maybe not Friday dinner for every house, but other than that, like it's pretty good and it feels very homey. You're eating with all your brothers or sisters in your home, and the food is very good. Aside from just that type of food, the amount of restaurants in Gainesville, in Midtown, downtown, there's a variety of options from upscale dining, like Steve Spurrier's restaurant. He was one of the Florida Gators' most winningest coach and players as well. So all his like Hobie Baker, well, is that the trophy?
Heisman.
The Heisman. He has the Heisman. Hobie Baker's hockey. Heisman trophies in his restaurant, and it's really cool. He sometimes is there. And then just regular restaurants. We really have it all. I never complained. I've enjoyed everything.
Very cool. Olivia.
Yeah, the food in Columbus is amazing. Like it's a city. It's got great food, really amazingly ranked and noted restaurants. Campus specifically, I was a freshman so I was a senior in high school during 2020. So I was a freshman like right during the whole like college during COVID situation. So all of the dining halls were shut down in terms of eating there. So it was really tricky to like I had to eat my meals like either outdoors or in my dorms every day. And I can say I would not have been able to make it through had the food not been amazing. So the dining hall food was so, so great. I like the anytime chicken noodle soup was on the menu, I would like sprint and before it like ran out. The wings were amazing. There are dining halls everywhere. So like you're always close to at least one good one. But yeah, good food. Gotta love good food.
Absolutely. And then Luke.
If I'm gonna be honest here, Penn State downtown really doesn't have like the most amount of options. The food's good. Like there's solid spots, like chain spots. But there's also good spots like Plaza, which is really good Mexican food. I think Ohio State has that as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Tavern, which is a really good steak place. But on campus wise, the dining halls are actually really good. With all there's different dorms, and each like dorm quad has their own commons area with dining hall. And I really liked it a lot with every dining hall I went to. And then this past year and this up and coming year, I've been living in my frat house, and we do have a chef. Um, Lunch and dinner Monday to Friday, and couldn't say more great things about the chef. She's great. The food's unbelievable. Um, and I mean, besides that, the food's decent, I guess. It's not like anything special. We don't have a city either, which their schools do. So
Yeah, there we go. I mean, nothing quite like an in-house chef, talk about living large. It's a beautiful thing. I wanted to give one more warning here, just to our audience. Hey, if you have any questions at all, now is the time, because we're about to walk into our final official question for our panelists. So please, if there's anything you'd like to know, now is your chance. But really, the final question here is one that, I mean, just looking forward, and this isn't like the 5-year plan question. It's always been one that kind of has, made me kind of like, I don't know, give me like an upset stomach. It's like, oh gosh, like I don't really know. Although some people do have a beautiful 5-year plan crafted, but just in general, like goals for post grad, like, I mean, and what are you doing to kind of get prepared for that? I mean, you can also go more long term. Like it's, well, what do you want to do with your degree? Just anything at all looking forward, where do you want to go in life? And if we can start with Mr. Caleb.
I mentioned previously I'm in ROTC for the Air Force. So when I graduate, I will commission as an officer. And hopefully my career field will be through intelligence. The 14 November career field being an intelligence officer. I want to work with unit intelligence. So we'll take our aircraft, learn about them, and then applied them to different mission sets on different enemy aircraft. So that's what I want to do for my career. As a computer science major, that should help me a lot because most of our data that we get nowadays is through computers. And as intelligence officers, we'll be working hand in hand with AI, and learning that kind of stuff. So that should help me a lot. I hope to, travel the world a little bit, get stationed overseas, maybe go to like Italy or, Spain even, would be cool. So yeah, just explore a little bit, learn a lot, and just take what I know and continue building on it, into my career field.
Wonderful. Daphne.
Yeah, so I just graduated in May, and I knew I wanted to travel for a bit. So I went to Southeast Asia for a month, which was really cool. But I graduated without a job, which at first, like, I didn't expect to do that. It's also just like a really weird job market. And as a public health major, it's also just a weird time. I like, thought I wanted to go into like healthcare management and administration. But then I also, for 3 summers before, I worked at a summer camp in the inclusion program, and I had a friend who is an occupational therapist and has always been pushing on me, being like, you would love this. And so now I'm actually at a weird point where I'm now applying into to like OTD programs, get my doctorate in occupational therapy, which is really exciting. And I definitely think that like I don't know, if I told myself like a month or two ago that I would be doing this, I wouldn't definitely have not believed myself. I think Michigan definitely provided so many opportunities for me to grow and learn. Like I didn't even know what public health was or like really with the program before going to Michigan, aside from like COVID, but like this program itself. And so there were so many opportunities to learn and grow, and then like just really like saying yes to any opportunity to learn is just amazing. And so I'm really excited to kind of start the application process, and kind of pair and integrate like my love for camp into an actual career. And so I'm very excited.
Wonderful. Mr. Luke.
Yeah, for me, my plan is after school, after I graduate, either I'm going to enter the sports media field, and doing sports journalism. I have an internship right now with a hockey website actually, and then see how that pans out. And if I end up changing my mind, I may want to enter my family business. My dad and two uncles own 5 grocery stores in like the area I live in. So we'll see what happens. I don't really know yet for sure, but I'm really interested in the sports media and journalism part right now.
Very, very cool. Mr. Noah.
Yeah, as I've mentioned before, I definitely want to go down the sales path. So business sales, and the first step towards that goal would be to land an internship this coming summer. So next summer, going to my junior year. So right in between junior and senior year is very critical time to find an internship, especially if it's going to be something that I want to do post grad, or maybe not. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And then after that, I'll go from there. But it's kind of cool hearing from some people that have already graduated and how their experiences might be different from what they originally thought. So I guess we'll just live and learn and see where the next 2 years take me.
Yeah, it's the only thing we can do, and Olivia.
Yeah, so I think I mentioned earlier that I'm currently getting my PhD in clinical psychology here in Long Island, New York. I just finished my first year, which is really awesome. So now I'm starting my second year. Thank you. I think Ohio State really prepared me for this. It's something that I admittedly have known that I've wanted to do forever, which goes back to like needing the scholarship to go to Ohio State. I graduated in 3 years. I started the PhD program earlier. Like I'm definitely someone who likes to plan into the future. I will be in this program for the next 5 years. You could say I like being a student, or maybe I like torturing myself. I'm not sure what the difference is at this point. But yeah, I think with the PhD program, Tim, you mentioned that your wife is a therapist. I'm interested in doing therapy. I'm thinking neuropsychology, and doing like assessment type work is where my heart may lead. I work primarily with kids and their parents, and it's something I'm finding really fulfilling and really rewarding. And kind of like Noah said, like that feeling of of learning something that interests you and intrigues you every day does not stop when you graduate undergrad. I could wake up tomorrow morning and decide that I want to, work with a totally different population. And luckily, grad school really does provide the opportunity to just thrive and do whatever it is that your big brain and your nerdy brain wants you to do. So, loving every second, grateful to my undergrad for getting me to where I'm at. And yeah, all good things. Yay,
Wonderful.
school.
Very wonderful. Um, uh, so we did get a question come through, and the question is this, and it is for any of our panelists. Um, Going back to the admissions process and touring colleges, was there anything that your family did that was especially helpful? And also, was there anything that you wish your family wouldn't have done? So whoever catches the spirit here of the question, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah, so like I said, my family were Georgia fans. So going to Alabama, they were kind of like, "Oh no, don't go there." And I toured, I loved it, and I kept talking about it to them, and they eventually became more receptive. But I do wish they had like put away the bias towards UGA, and sort of been more open to what I wanted to do. So if you have those similar experiences, I would definitely say stay passionate and follow what you want to do. Because I knew I wanted to go to Bama, so just stay firm in what you want to do.
Very, very cool. Olivia, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, it felt like an appropriate way to organize. I would assume that a family member asked this question, and first I would say that you just asking this question in general means that you're already doing right by your child and future student. So good on you for just wanting to be the best support system that you can be. I would say be exactly that. This time in a junior or a senior in high school's life is so transformative. It's so individual. The five of us can sit up here and tell you guys about our experience, but at the end of the day, like your child's experience is going to be, his or her experience. And the best thing that you can do is kind of like laissez-faire, hands off, let them explore this time. And when they need the support, they will come to you. And, you can just remind them that you're there for them and you're, excited for them. This should be as exciting as it is stressful. And so just giving your child like the space to explore this like very like identity searching, exciting future planning moment of theirs is, I think, the best thing that you can do.
Absolutely.
I would like to add a point also. I think
Please.
one of the best things my parents did was actually go to some schools and do tours and walk around. So if that's something that you're able to do, I definitely suggest doing it. And I also think, kind of like what the other two said, about not putting too much pressure on a certain school. Like if you both went to Michigan, maybe don't put all your eggs in one basket that your child should and only go to Michigan because it's extremely difficult. And I've seen a lot of people my age get the heartbreak of their life because they decided they were going there since they're 8 years old and it just didn't work out for them.
It's like the parable of the newborn who's put in like a Harvard onesie before they can even speak. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's kind of a stepping into that or learning to walk while wearing that. Moving right along, we have a question for Daphne. Daphne, what was it like to see Michigan beat OSU each year during college? Go Blue.
Oh, it was great. Great question. It was incredible. I was there for both home games in 2021 and 2023. And yeah, I was also there for the national championship. Obviously, I know this past year Ohio State won, but go blue, and we still won all 4 years.
Oh my God. Whoa, what a question. And with that, we have to come to an end here today. However, if there are any other questions from our audience, please feel free to reach out via email to any of us. Once more, my name's Tim. I'm with Solution Prep. Our bread and butter is helping students throughout this college process. thank you guys so much for coming out. This is the second in a series of these How I Got In seminars. So if you found this to be helpful, or if you know someone who may benefit from being a part of this, please reach out to them and spread the word. We love to help as many people as possible. And Josh, is there anything else that we'd like to put on a cap on things here?
No, you did a good job. I want to just thank everybody for coming out. Like Tim said, the next webinar in the series will be August 25th, and it's going to be pre-med powerhouses. So if you're interested in maybe going pre-med or chemistry bio major, I definitely recommend coming. And then again, if you're ever interested in touring any schools, feel free to reach out, especially if you're looking forward to touring with any students that you've seen here, maybe with the exception of Olivia, unless you want to go to Hofstra. All these students are active tour guides on our website. So please, if you were interested by any video chats with them, tours with them, I'm sure they would love to help keep talking about their schools. But other than that, I appreciate you guys for coming. This was great. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys on August 25th.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.